It's a great privilege to address this distinguished gathering of academicians, faculty members, researchers, and participants who have joined us today with a shared commitment to learning and academic advancement. On behalf of the Department of Computer Application under the aegis of the Human Resource Development Center, Integral University, Lucknow, I, Dr. Nadia Parveen, Assistant Professor, extend a warm welcome to all participants to the 2 weeks blended faculty development program on transformative learning through interdisciplinary artificial intelligence and machine learning applications in emerging domains being held from 8th to 21st Jan 2026. This faculty development program has been thoughtfully curated to help participants explore these dimensions and integrate them effectively into teaching, research, and professional practice. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce esteemed resource person Professor Dr. Sanobai Shabnam Mir ma'am is currently as professor and head Department of Bioscience, Integral University, Lucknow. She is a distinguished academician, an accomplished researcher, and a recognized leader in the field of cell and molecular biology, immunology, cancer biology, and biotechnology, with more than 17 years of post PhD research and teaching experience. She completed her PhD in biotechnology from the prestigious Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research, Chandigarh. She also holds an MSc in biotechnology from Aligarh Muslim University, where she ranked second in the university. In recognition of her outstanding academic and research contribution, she has received several prestigious awards, including the Outstanding Researcher of the Year Award 2023 from Integral University. With great respect, I now invite Professor Dr. Sanobai Shabnamir ma'am to kindly take over the session.
Presented. Move it from here, right?
Yeah, ma'am. From here also, ma'am. From the arrows you can.
All right. So thank you very much, Dr. Nadia, for such a generous introduction. I'm not an expert in anything, but I try to find out how we can integrate information from various domains and can utilize that for betterment of the humankind and transformative, changes in the world. Without going into too many details of how AI and how machine learning can be integrated, but I would start with these few words that all of you are aware that artificial intelligence is transforming healthcare by enabling data-driven, precise, and patient-centric information. It's helping making transformative changes in analyzing the data. We are inundated with a lot of data, right? We have access to a lot of data in the form of clinical data, in the form of electronic health records, in the form of images, medical images. So all this comprises a lot of data sets which the data scientists are now trying to find patterns in, and then they are utilizing this information for improving predictive medicine, in improving outcomes in personalized medicine, in giving us answers about what kind of diseases we may suffer from later on in our life. So we already had this data. We already had probably not so much access to the data, but AI has helped us in finding patterns. So I'll be talking about how applications, how AI can be integrated in applications in medical imaging, diagnostics, and personalized medicine have been used. I'm not an expert in computer sciences, but I can make sense of programs that can be utilized for drug discovery, for in my domain in predictive oncology. I can make sense of that data in the form of how we can suggest that whether a treatment is going to be good or whether the patient is not going to respond. Things I'm going to talk about today. So I firstly thank the Department of Computer Applications for giving this opportunity to me. All right, so as I was telling you that we are getting data from various domains. We are getting data from electronic health records. We are getting data from genomics. We are getting data from medical image diagnostic tools. We are getting data in the form of, say, test reports, right? So all this data, we're getting data in the form of thermal imaging of vectors. So we can use that data for outbreak prediction. We can use this data for prediction of pandemics later on. So this cartoon here is just a representative of domains where we can integrate AI, NLPs, and machine learning to make sense of whatever this data is predicting. So AI enhanced medical imaging for, these are the key applications which I'm going to talk about. AI enhanced medical imaging for disease detection. So medical imaging we have been doing since time immemorial, right? We have access to MRIs, we have access to CT scans, we have access to X-ray diagnostic tools, right? So the X-ray films can be scanned, they can be checked for different kinds of patterns, and we can give better detection of disease, and we can be accurately suggesting what kind of disease the patient may suffer from. Then we are going to use diagnostic AI for pattern recognition and accuracy. So here is where we need a lot of inputs from computer scientists and data scientists. Data scientists are going to find out the patterns, because we may not be able to find the pattern. Every CT may not look similar to us. We may find some differences. We may find some, what do you say, similarities. But we need to have some tools by which we can understand that, okay, this particular similarity is associated with disease and the difference is not associated with disease. Then we can also talk about biomarker technology for personalized treatment. The healthcare industry, I mean, not industry, the healthcare sector, let me not call it an industry. I was being very honest. Healthcare is an industry these days. So we cannot be so honest, but the thing is that healthcare sector is undergoing transformative changes, because now by the advent of AI, we can create digital twins. We can create a digital twin for ourselves. Like if our medical records are digitized somewhere, this data can create a digital twin for ourselves. Like, I can have a digital twin so that, my records can time to time suggest that, okay, I'm fine now, but I may have propensity to develop some kind of disease later on. Not me, but somebody, some patient or some volunteer who is undergoing treatment for some other disease. So we have the concept of digital twins for predictive healthcare. Predictive. So predictive, you have to understand the power of this term predictive. Like, even before the person may suffer from the disease, we can predict, okay, you have the propensity to develop diabetes, for example. So we can make the corrections at the right time. We can suggest to the person that your glucose level is not staying stable over a period of time. Your heart rate is not, looking normal over a period of time. The pattern can suggest that, okay, make some lifestyle changes so that the disease will not occur. Besides that, the major application is real-time patient monitoring and integration. So I don't need to tell you about these applications again and again. I'm sure that most of you are aware of these applications, but what I'm trying to, add here is that all of us need to come together if we want to transform the sector. Like, you are computer experts, we need your help in deciphering the data that we are getting in the labs. So these are some examples of medical imaging technologies. I talked about X-rays, so AI detection of chest abnormalities. Now X-rays are digitized. Digital X-rays are, we have access to digital X-rays, high resolution MRIs, high resolution CT scans. So we have a capacity to develop advanced visualization and analysis tools. Mammography is done, regularly. All women above the age of 40 are suggested that they should undergo these screening. They should take care, and they should undergo screening for breast cancer detection. Ultrasound, real-time AI-powered insights can be developed. And pathology has undergone a transformative change, because now hospitals, these corporate hospitals and many government hospitals, tertiary care hospitals, are using pathology AI tools. So they're using pathology AI tools so that they can, compare the patterns of a normal tissue and a diseased tissue. And the beauty of this entire system is that the accuracy by using pathology AI tool is much better than the clinician. So I'm not suggesting that we have to replace the clinician. No, we don't have to do that. We have to make the job easier for the clinician. We have to utilize AI in such a manner that the burnout that these clinicians face because of being overstressed or being exposed to a lot of patients, this burnout can come down, because the AI is doing that detection job for you. Let the clinician only focus on diagnosis and accurate diagnosis of the disease. So pathology AI is regularly being used in the clinics to look for abnormalities and different patterns. So, different pattern may not always suggest abnormality. The different pattern may just suggest a transition from a normal state to a abnormal state. I talked about the concept of digital twins. So in this cartoon, you can see you have on the left side, you have a physical twin, and on the right side, you have a digital twin. So the use of digital twins has proliferated across various fields and industries, with a recent surge in the healthcare sector. So the concept of digital twin for health, DT4 for health, DT4 for health, it's the digital twin for health, holds great promise to revolutionize the entire healthcare system, including management and delivery, disease treatment and prevention, health, well-being maintenance, ultimately improving human life. So why do we want to improve human life? Well, like, why do we have to keep on monitoring this person throughout his life? Why do we have to indulge in this practice of having a digital twin? I mean, why is a digital twin an important concept? Anybody? Model. Not only that, because the thing is, the disease puts a disease in any form, puts a lot of economic burden. Yeah. And to test your research options, whether your research options are working or not, whatever interventions you're doing, whether that intervention is working or not, you, instead of checking on a human volunteer, you can check it here, and at least you you can get proof of concept for your research work. Proof of concept is like, having validation that your intervention is working. And not only that, disease in itself is an economic burden. Like when we become sick, for example, we take a sick leave for 3 days. Whenever we suffer from viral, probably we would take a sick leave for 3 days. So do you understand how much economic burden we are, putting on the system, right? The caregivers are under a lot of stress, so they also require a lot of monetary support. Caregivers honge na, like we'll have somebody who would take care of us, so the person is also losing a work day, right? So every sick day means that we are losing a work day, a productive work day. So if we have this digital twin concept where we are regularly monitoring a person in a real time manner, we can intervene at the right place, at the right time, right? So this implication would be great for diseases, lifestyle diseases, right? Most of the diseases that we have nowadays are lifestyle diseases. So if we just make small changes in our lifestyle based upon the information that we are getting through this digital twin concept, we can reverse a lot of things. Prevention. So most of the diseases can be prevented. And this concept of digital twins will help us in that. Right. So the rapid growth of big data and continuous advancement in data science and artificial intelligence has the potential to significantly expedite digital twin research. So what are the different types of expertise we require here? Is it can it be done by one person, or do we require expertise from multiple people? It's a multidisciplinary field, and you see the beauty of this entire concept, right? It cannot be developed by one person. You need help from You need collaboration between a computer scientist. You need collaboration between a data scientist, a scientist who can understand data, who can analyze data, clinician who can tell you that, okay, whatever you're creating is actually useful in the clinics, a researcher, a biology researcher, or maybe a, diabetologist, or maybe an endocrinologist, or any researcher who is working in the biological sciences. So, the world has been created in such a manner that we are interdependent on each other. We cannot work in isolation. So this, the concept is giving you an idea that we should collaborate, right? We should collaborate on different areas for betterment of human beings. So digital twin, I would urge all of you to at least go back and look at it as an option for your research. Maybe we'll not have a actual twin, but we'll have some prototype where we would have generated this kind of data for our own system. Our own system means within the university, because this data is generated from the sensors, from the electronic health records. I'm sure that we must be maintaining the records of patients, so we can make sense of all the data. We just need few dedicated people who are capable of understanding the data.
It could be a personalized.
It could be, but clinical trials need some, we have to follow some guidelines. So once we have those permissions and regulatory guidelines, when we have crossed, then we'll be able to do that. So these are some leading AI diagnostic platforms. Viz AI, so where this Viz.ai helps you in analyzing chest X-rays for rapid abnormality detection. River Medical, so it leads to mammogram analysis for breast cancer screening. So it would collate. It would collate data from different types of mammograms, and would look for similarities, dissimilarities, patterns, expression of proteins, under expression of proteins, and will make sense of that entire. It will give you it's a lot of data which needs to be analyzed. Okay. lot of data, but data which can give you some sensible results. So then we have Page.ai. It's pathology AI for cancer diagnosis support. So Page AI is, again, as I said, pathology AI is giving a lot of transformative change. Even a doctor, a clinician based in USA, gave a testimony that pathology AI is giving you results which are much better than how the humans were looking at the results. Fine. So, but we don't have to totally rely on what AI is saying. We have to use our intelligence and see whether whatever uh, machine learning results we are getting, whether they are correlating with the symptoms and diagnosis. So this is it clear? Yeah. So this is the suggested workflow with AI assisted classification. So AI diagnostic capabilities, they help in enhanced accuracy and comprehensive analysis, pattern recognition across vast medical data sets, multimodal data integration. So you have pattern recognition through the data sets, multimodal data integration. So you're integrating data through different sources, imaging data, genomics data. Some of it I have not included: genomics data, proteomics data, your protein profiles, metabolomics data, the metabolites that your body is generating. So that data can also be collated, and your medical records. All these, so we can have a path flow where multimodal data integration can be done, and this entire stuff can be used for predictive disease progression modeling. And finally, real-time clinical decision support. So what is all this helping us in? It is helping us in giving a real-time clinical decision support. It's helping the doctors make right kind of decisions. So this is the support. This is this thing here, the steps above tell you how traditionally all these things were being done. So you had a radiograph, medical image. The doctor would look at the image, right? And would kind of rely on his or her expertise and experience, and would suggest, okay, this person has TB. The spot here is suggesting that the person has pneumonia probably, right? And then they would support it by other means. But what is AI doing? AI is integrating all these images, the current image, and it's matching it with so many, hundreds, thousands of images which are available in the database. And then it's giving you a spot analysis, right? So it's not a lot of work. We just need to have the right kind of tools. So all of you need to find out what are these right kind of tools in medical processing, image processing, which will help us in finding the patterns in the high resolution, right? So simple, एक एक्सरे का जो हमारा डायग्नोसिस होता था, डॉक्टर एक्सरे के बेस पे डायग्नोसिस करते थे, अब उसी एक्सरे को हम millions of x-rays के साथ कंपेयर कर रहे हैं, and we are getting कि okay, this much spot, a spot which is this much longer or has this kind of density, it can be correlated to a disease condition. It can be correlated to a disease condition. And accuracy of what? Diagnosis is becoming higher. Accuracy of prediction is becoming higher, right? Maybe the spot was, on a particular day. Maybe the X-ray was done on day, let us consider the day as day 0, right? And if we give a treatment to the patient, right, on day 10, we again did an X-ray. So we'll be able to figure out whether the treatment is working or not, right? So we can, suggest that, okay, this kind of treatment, if it's given, the patient would recover. So prediction is another predictive oncology, predictive medicine, personalized medicine is going to save a lot of effort and lot of money for all the countries. Then we are using, we are using AI, machine learning in biomarker technology in a big way. biomarker technology has been revolutionized by integrating machine learning. So biomarker, what are these biomarkers? These biomarkers are some specific set of proteins or some specific set of molecular signatures, right? Molecular signature is a particular type of signature. Like we have a DNA fingerprint, like we have a fingerprint, right? So that's unique to everybody. Similarly, we have a protein profile, which is unique for every kind of cell. So under normal conditions, the cells would have X type of protein profile. Under abnormal conditions, the cells would have some other type of protein profile, but that protein profile would become a signature of that cell, right? So on the basis of those signatures, you can decide whether the patient is suffering from the disease or not, right? These are biomarkers. These are markers which get exhibited, which get manifested even before the onset of full-blown disease, right? So for example, in lung cancer, we have markers like P53. I'm just giving you a name of these markers. That's not relevant. What the point I'm trying to make is that every disease has its own molecular pattern, right? Like we have our molecular pattern in the form of DNA. We have the same kind of DNA, but we are different. So that means that the pattern is different for all of us, right? So in biomarker technology, this technique is being used in a big way. So we can identify disease subtypes and treatment targets by using AI. So this is where we would want your help from people who are joining online, Faizan. So many people, it was evident that many people have joined online. So probably they can connect with us. They can share their expertise with us. People in-house who are from the university, who are working in this domain, we would want you to help us in identifying these biomarker patterns so that we can suggest some treatment options or diagnostic options for the entire world, right? So we can come together in this area also. Biomarker technology. Why is it required? It's required for prognosis. It is evident here. So biomarkers identify, where is the mouse? It's not moving. Yeah. So biomarker technology, it helps us in identifying disease subtypes and treatment targets. It helps us in guided target therapy selection, right? So whether the biomarker is getting lowered or whether it's getting upregulated, that will give us an indication whether the treatment is working or not. So let's suppose a cancer patient is undergoing treatment. Okay, we don't know whether the patient is responding or not. So we can look at the biomarker panel, right? It's a simple test. It may be blood-based test. It may be based on, on saliva test, right? Some bodily fluid has to be taken and we can get data from there and we'll be able to understand whether the person is responding to the treatment or not. Okay, fine. So earlier I talked about mammograms for breast cancer detection, right? But now, with AI, the entire diagnostic technique has changed because it seems that fingerprints, the fingerprints of males and females are different. Fingerprints of everybody are different, but it seems that the fingerprints that males have are different than what females have. And when a female is suffering from this breast cancer, the fingerprint profile, the protein profile in the fingerprints changes. So they are just taking the biometric of these females who have who have been diagnosed with breast cancer, and they are comparing the fingerprints with the normal people, normal women. And on the basis of this data, they are devising a fingerprint-based technology for screening of breast cancer. So you can understand the power of all this. I hope you are understanding the power of how you can help people in integrating all these technologies, right? So kitna acha hoga कि instead कोई भी invasive technique ना use करके, invasive is where you have to extract the tissue from somebody, or whether you have to extract bodily fluid from somebody, or whether you have to inject something, fingerprint based. Just you have to go and give a biometric, right, on a machine, and that machine is attached to a moldy apparatus, and it's giving us information about the metabolites that are getting released on the fingerprints. Okay, metabolites means some molecules will get released here, right? Okay. So it's a simple, beautiful concept, but it will transform the healthcare industry. So guided targeted therapy selection, companion diagnostics development, and it will minimize adverse effects through personalization. So a lot of people have adverse effects to drugs. A lot of people die because of adverse effects to drug. They are allergic to drugs. They do not respond to the drugs properly. Okay, because they are not supposed to take that drug. Some of us are not capable of metabolizing some drugs. Like some people are paracetamol allergic because they don't have the machinery in their body to convert paracetamol. So we should not be suggesting paracetamol to them, right? So what do? Right? What do? So if we had this pattern, like if we had this pattern of everybody, all of us, we could be suggesting personalized medicine. And that is where we are transitioning now. Clinicians have this, मुझे time बताते जाइएगा, right? Faizan? No, that's okay. You let me know when I have to finish because I can go on and on, right? So we can minimize adverse effects through personalization. So personalized medicine is another domain where we should be putting our head together, because we should not be suggesting drugs to each and every person randomly. We should be suggesting them drugs according to their own makeup. Okay? If I am able to metabolize paracetamol, then only I should be suggested paracetamol for my headache, right? So what are the types of biomarkers? Sorry. Yeah. Piche chala gaya. I hope you're still awake because it's a post-lunch session. So most of you must have had a heavy lunch and no, you're hungry? Never mind. So types of biomarkers. We have biomarkers for prognostic development, right? Prognosis, diagnostic uses. So this is just giving you an example of how these biomarkers are important. They are helping us in prognosis. Prognosis means we'll make a guess, we'll make a prediction whether a person is going to develop a disease or not. Because I'm a cancer biologist, I'm a cancer researcher, so most of the examples that I have taken is on cancer. But there are every healthcare sector is getting transformed because of machine learning. Okay, so prognosis means we will predict whether a person is going to develop cancer or not. So we'll use biomarkers. In early stage. In early stage. In fact, you have asked a very good question. We should not be only focusing on drug discovery. We should be focusing on early diagnosis of cancer, because most of the cancers are preventable if they are asymmetric, as in
Something that
heterogeneity is there. A lot of heterogeneity is there based upon population, based upon the region that they come from. Heterogeneity is there. In the data set, you would get heterogeneity, but then there would be some common patterns which are associated with a particular cancer. Okay? So heterogeneous होगा, ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको uniform मिलेगा. North India में जो prevalence of cancers है, that's different than what is there in South India. So the patterns would be different, but there would be a lot of commonalities. So you have to look at those commonalities and differences. Okay. So diagnosis. So on the basis of these biomarkers, we can predict what type of cancer a person is going to, develop. It will be predictive. predictive as in whether the person is going to respond to the treatment or not. We can predict that on the basis of the types of biomarkers. Then we can go for pharmacodynamics. Pharmacodynamics means that we are giving medicine to somebody and we want to see how much medicine the person has metabolized. Has he or she responded to the medicine? This also can be precisely suggested by the biomarker technology. So the biomarker technology integrated with machine learning will help us in transform predictive oncology. And it's not like that it's not being used. It's being used in most of the cancer hospitals. This predictive tools are being used. Companies, pharma companies have come up with kits which are giving us information about the biomarkers. So what is happening to that information? That's getting stored somewhere. If we have access to that information, we can devise predictive tools. These are some biomarker-based point of contact devices, which is the future of diagnostic medicine. So you can see this picture here, A, which is telling you from where you can get the, what are you going to use to get the data? So what are you going to use? You can use tears, you can use saliva, you can use sweat, you can use urine, serum, plasma, blood, anything, right? These are some of the non-invasive tools that I'm talking about. So because invasive tools we already have available, isn't it? We can catch hold of a patient, suggest a biopsy, that tool is already available, right? We don't want, to reach, we don't want the patient to reach a stage when the biopsy is the only option, isn't it? We want, if we have to transform something, we should have access to, non-invasive tools. So we can use these non-invasive techniques. So for example, saliva has been used. Immobilize it on a multi imprinted polymer, immobilize it there. That data will be generated, and this data can then be looked for patterns, right? Okay. So differences, similarities, again, pattern recognition. You people are much more, educated about pattern recognition, neural networks. I'm just talking about how we can apply it. So these are some vocal biomarkers, sample collection, optical sensing, electrochemical sensing, fluorescent sensing, magnetic sensing, all these types of tools can be used for detection. Once the sample has been detected for whichever entity you want to detect, you may be detecting a genomic-based entity, you may be detecting a protein-based entity, you may be detecting a metabolite, you may be detecting a bioproduct. It depends upon what you want to detect, right? So everything that you're detecting is becoming data for you, है ना? और उसका क्या करना है उस डेटा का? उस डेटा को एनालाइज करना है, राइट? उस डेटा में सिमिलैरिटीज, डिससिमिलैरिटीज, पैटर्न्स चेक करने हैं. एंड दुनिया भर का जितना भी डेटा सेट हमारे पास अवेलेबल है उसके साथ कंपेयर करना है. एंड देन इन द एंड we'll come to a conclusion कि okay, this XYZ pattern is associated with disease. This XYZ pattern is not associated with disease. It's a pattern which is associated with a normal person, right? Isn't it? So these are our this slide I have included to just to give you an idea about how much of it this idea has been translated by companies. So companies are way ahead in all this, in innovation, because they're putting their head and their money at the right place, right? They're utilizing the intellectual property in the right manner. But I just wish that they were not only working for business models, they were, also helping people. So if we have to help people in the real sense, then then what do the innovations have to come from the university system and research institutes, because we would not be doing it for profit only, right? We'll be doing it for humankind, huh? Yeah, we'll be doing it for not for profit, uh, initiative. Okay, but then companies have given us point of care testing systems, platforms where all these things have been integrated and we are getting results. ऐसा नहीं है, हवा में नहीं है ये. All this is giving us concrete results. Okay, I'm going to talk about Aura Ring. This Aura Ring is a ring, it's a ring-based wearable device. Okay, ring-based like wearable device, which was used by doctors to identify patients developing coronavirus symptoms in the early stages, helping them limit transmission. So this kind of digital biomarker-based wearable device can be used for, obviously, for other kinds of pandemics too, or other kinds of viruses too. So wearable sensors for the detection of biomarkers for wound infection, right? So hospital-based infections are a major problem. All of us know, right? People go for simple surgery, but they come back with hospital-acquired infections, right? So cancer. Gee. Hmm. Hmm. जी. Yeah, so that requires a lot of integration of medical records, आपको मैं बताऊं, like, I have spent some time in US, and I had a ID, patient ID. And whatever, whatever consultations I may have taken, right? Whatever consultations, whatever my medical records were. So if I was visiting a Dr. X today, right? And tomorrow I may had to meet Dr. Y. The Dr. Y pull out all the records on his PC. You getting my point? So the other doctor did not have to rely on my, history, my accounts of my medical history. He just had to punch in my number, patient ID number, and all the records would pop up. So it was integrated across the country. So it was not like in that state a doctor could access my records. If I moved states in USA, the other doctor would also get access to my medical records. So the first challenge is to overcome this, integrate this data, right? Integrate the data. The major problem that we have in not having an integrated data system is that we are not insured, right? So my doctors could access my records because all these hospitals were working under in insurance network. All right. So yeah, you have made a very valid point. We first need to have some data management system, hospital data management system, where the patient's records are accessible, but their confidentiality is also maintained. उनका confidentiality भी तो maintain करना है. Integrated, yes.
Few of the big hospitals is doing the same. The KGMC they generate you unique UHIDs, and from that your data is transferred from one doctor to another. They can rely on.
Yes, it should become a practice. It should become.
Thinking of the data from different hospital to different environment is required more, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It's not only required; it's the need.
Yes.
Because we could have prevented a lot of diseases if we had integrated this data. Because a patient who is probably going to a doctor in Sitapur, right? Some other doctor sitting in KGMU, if he had access to his records at the right time, he could, prevent the, he could have saved the patient. The patient may not have been sick also. Yeah, not only that, sometimes what happens, like sometimes you have the disease is just making an onset, right? So in people in doctors in periphery are not able to make the right kind of decisions. So if the records were accessible to a doctor in KGMU, for example, he could have intervened, right? जी, तो अभी तो टेलीमेडिसिन आ गया है ना? So अभी तो हमने काफी, like we have advanced in a big way, but for a country like India, we need Herculean efforts, right? Because it's a vast country. So let's say that maybe we cannot integrate the data for the entire country, but we can do it in pockets, like, state-wise, and then share the like whatever population-based diseases we are getting, we can prevent them. Can prevent them. Population based diseases जो हमारी Indian population में ही हो रही है ना?
We don't have even a robust tracking system of the blood donation.
No, that's there, but we have to reach there. I mean, we have to reach there. We cannot say we do not have this. Yes, it's a problem, so we have to provide solutions for that, right? So I was talking about wearable sensors for detection of biomarkers for wound infection. So this wearable sensor here, this bandage, it's a bandage which has been used for wound healing, right? But it's not a regular bandage. This bandage is integrated with the IoT-based system, which is monitoring whether the patient's wound is getting healed or whether the patient's wound is getting infected. Do you get it? So we can, prevent the patient from bacterial infection that he might have acquired in the hospital. So wearable sensors for the detection of biomarkers for wound infection. So what do we do? Screen printing of the smart bandage. It's a smart bandage. So it has a variable potential stat used for operation of the sensor. Analytical signal used for UA detection and quantification is transferred to a computer or a smartphone via the wireless system. And you have seen the schematic representation. So the idea is that when the wound is healing, it's giving some signals which will be detected by the sensor. When the wound is not healing, when it's getting infected, it will give a different pattern of biomolecules. The detection of those biomolecules will give an indication that the wound is getting infected, right? So we can intervene. The patient does not have to suffer. We can intervene at the right place, right? At the right time. So I hope that this video works. Avaz.
Mic.
So like, where is the sound? Sound कहाँ पर है इसका? I was talking about the DNA fingerprint based breast cancer detection. आवाज नहीं आ रही. कोई problem नहीं है. Even if it does not work, I will share the presentation.
अच्छा यहाँ पे वॉल्यूम स्लाइड बंद करना पड़ेगा.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. The point that I wanted to make is that we don't have to rely on mammograms only for breast cancer detection. We can go for breast cancer detection through fingerprinting only, right? So you can go through this slide later on. So this slide here talks about precision treatment selection. I've talked about targeted interventions based on molecular signatures. I think at least today's take-home message would be looking for molecular signatures, right? Even if we do not, remember everything, but at least all of you would remember that we have talked about molecular signatures. We have to look for these molecular signatures and detect the disease, treat the disease. So, yeah. So precision treatment selection, where we can go for targeted interventions based on molecular signatures. So we can predict response to immunotherapy. This can help us in reducing unnecessary healthcare costs, because every time we are suggesting some new therapy to a patient and the patient is not responding, we are putting a lot of burden, economic burden on the patient, right? We are making the patient suffer because he or she has to pay for something which the person is not going to respond to at the end, right? So अगर हमें पहले ही पता होगा कि the person is going to respond to this, we would give the right kind of treatment, right? So reduced unnecessary healthcare costs, improved patient outcomes and efficacy. The beauty is that we'll get better patient outcomes and efficacy will be better. And we can identify specific inhibitors for specific mutations. So this is something which biologists are more capable of doing, but then again, with help from computer scientists, data scientists, electronic engineers, because they will help us in making these sensors, right? We can give them an idea, like, okay, I want a sensor which would, detect X, Y, Z. But how it has to be integrated, how it has to be designed is the job of the electronics engineer or maybe a computer engineer, right? So 3D printing, wearable devices, point of care, sequencing data, DNA sequencing data. Bioinformatics, we use this bioinformatics day in and day out. Bioinformatics, genomic data for drug discovery and response. Okay, this is something which we are commonly using. Multi-organs on a chip. Multi-organs on a chip. So what does it mean? We don't need a whole organism to test our drugs. We can test the drugs on the organ on a chip. We can design a digital twin of an organ, and we can test our treatment options on the chip first, right? And finally go to the correct volunteer. This is a different world, right? The world that I'm talking about is a different world, but it's a better world, right? Where people would be healthier, not so poor because of healthcare costs. So digital twin technology, I have already talked about. It integrates real-time health monitoring, genetic, lifestyle, and health data integration, wearable device continuous monitoring. So that means that this fellow digital twin, physical twin, needs to be using some wearable device. So people are using wearable devices, heart rate monitors, BP monitors, करते हैं ना, घड़ी पहन के घूम रहे होते हैं, right? So the stress monitors हैं उनके, उस पे आता रहता है कि you're getting stressed, right? So we can also, tell the person कि okay, you're getting very stressed, थोड़ा अपना mental health सही करिए, right? Isn't it? Tailored diagnostic strategies, enhanced disease prediction models. I think I have made this point earlier when I was talking about the digital twins. So what all can we do? We can intervene at the right time. If we have not been able to intervene at the right time, the person has already developed disease. So we have suggested some treatment. So we can monitor the response to the treatment. We can suggest the right kind of treatment, and we can have better prediction tools for disease. है ना हमें पता लगेगा कि अभी हम कह रहे हैं कि okay, diabetes, we are becoming the diabetes capital of the world, right? So after some time, if we integrate the data correctly and if we make the right kind of choices, we may bring this number down. So advanced data integration. Molecular signatures I have talked about. I was mostly talking about genomics, proteomics, and metabolomics data, metabolites that our body releases, byproducts which come out in different bodily fluids. So genomics and proteomics data analysis can be done. Internet of Things, IoT devices for real world evidence, multi-omics pattern recognition. Multi-omics, okay? So making correlation of genomics data, correlating it with protein profiles, correlating them with metabolomics, data. So in Western countries and in India also, lot of platforms are available which are using multi-omics pattern recognition. Data from multiple sources is integrated and it's presented in a sensible manner. Sensible manner क्या होता है? Like sensible manner is like where we can make some correlation, where we can make some, we can understand what this data is suggesting. Data-driven, personalized decisions. I gave you the example of paracetamol. So we can go for data-driven, personalized decisions on whether we have to consume a particular medicine or not. Profile, right? We can consume a particular drug because we are capable of metabolizing it. If we are not capable of metabolizing it, it's going to harm us. 2025 healthcare status. This particular thing this particular slide is giving you an idea about how big the industry is going to be. It's already very big, right? 500 plus FDA AI submissions for diagnostics have been made. This data is from FBA USA. We don't have the real-time data from India, but I'm sure that Indian companies are also not far behind. So draft guidance has been released for AI in drug development. AI has been established in mainstream clinical practice. Therefore, since AI and ML integration is the future, so we need to be very aware of what are the regulatory frameworks. So what do we have to, what are the regulatory frameworks? What are the ethical issues related to these aspects? So the ethical issues are mostly associated with data protection, confidentiality of the data, right? So obviously we would require some people who are some learned people, computer scientists maybe, who can help us in protecting the data. हमें नहीं चाहिए मतलब government को चाहिए होंगे, government of India would require or the other companies would require, because everything is coming from, all this is happening because we have a lot of data available, right? AI का क्या sense है अगर data नहीं होगा तो? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, or natural learning protocols, programming is working on data itself. So if the data is not safe, right? So most of the regulatory and ethical frameworks have been devised for the data confidentiality, right? We cannot sell the data. Can we sell the health data? No. In the dark space, people, sell it. But जो ethical hackers हैं या फिर people who are quite honest, they can help, right? So this slide here is telling about the transformative benefits of digital transformation in healthcare industry. Enhanced diagnostic accuracy and speed, personalized treatment plans for each patient, reduced unnecessary interventions and costs, and better clinical outcomes. So we have to shift from AI, I think in the near future will help us in shifting from one size fits all. One size fits all means like earlier, if we had a drug, we would suggest कि everybody headache के लिए paracetamol खाएं, है ना? तो ऐसा नहीं हमें करना है. We can shift from one size fits all. We don't have to have a universal medicine for each kind of ailment. We'll suggest a medicine based upon the person's profile. So these are some of the transformative benefits. Future of personalized medicine. So you should look at these as challenges. These can be your research problems. You can suggest your research scholars to work on these problems. If you are guiding research scholars, they can work on these problems, or you yourself can work on these problems, because this is the future of personalized medicine. So large language models in medical report generation, transformer-based image segmentation. So image processing is something where you can help us, right? We we work on animal models of neurodegeneration or animal models of lung cancer. So you can suggest us based upon the images. Generative AI for synthetic data and enhancement, multimodal learning integration, पहले ही हम बता चुके हैं. So I would skip these slides because I don't think I would go into the intricacies of medical imaging. All of you know we are using medical imaging here as a source of data. We just have to understand that we are just using medical imaging as a source of data for our models, right? So this is how a doctor's office is going to look like in future. But this doctor cannot work alone. This doctor has to take help from whom? Huh? Machines. But those machines would have been created by people like you, right? Isn't it? Those machines would have been created by you only on inputs from data scientists, right? So काफी सारा आपको collaboration करना चाहिए, okay? And collaborative spirit में work करना चाहिए हमें सबको. So we would have real work applications in early disease detection. I have already taken up machine learning for disease detection. I would just focus on two important things which we have achieved because of machine learning in disease detection. So we have done pattern recognition at a larger scale. And what have we achieved? We have achieved automated feature extraction and classification, and we have achieved better results, better in the sense, more sensitive and specific. Sensitivity and specific means now we can precisely say, okay, this pattern is associated with disease. तो हम हमारा जो resolution है, results का resolution समझते हैं ना आप, मतलब low resolution image and high resolution image वैसे type का. So when I'm using this term resolution, I mean that we are getting more focused and targeted and more sensitive results. Yeah, clarity. When I use resolution, I'm using it in place of clarity, right? So reduced inter-observer variability. हाँ ठीक है. We are 10 people here. All of us would observe, would be objective. Our objectivity will be different. AI does not have that bias unless you are biasing the system. अगर आप AI को bias कर रहे हैं तो तब वो bias तरीके से काम करेगा. Otherwise, there is lot of reduced inter-observer variability. So from observer to observer, the variability that we were getting from doctor to doctor, that will not get here, right? All right. Then real-time clinical decision support. So intelligent recommendations at point of care. So we can stratify the patients. We can stratify patients on the basis of risk assessment and prognosis. And then we can, the AI can give you the treatment recommendations. है ना, उसमें feed किया होगा ना हमने. अगर disease already known है, बहुत पुरानी disease है, patterns हमें मिल गए हैं, treatment के बाद कैसे patterns मिल रहे हैं, मिले थे हमें, उसके basis पे हम suggest कर सकते हैं कि okay, this is the treatment protocol that you have to undertake. So डॉक्टर को ये भी डिसीजन खुद नहीं लेना है, वो AI बता रहा है, तो उसका कहाँ पर वो है? Where is the interface, human interface?
How it will proceed.
हाँ, so human interface is how, the doctor has to, actually agree to what the AI is suggesting. So that is the human interface we have to use at every point, not totally rely on machine learning. So, this image, I don't know whether it's clear or not. So this image is again giving you molecular insights on how we have proceeded. We have taken a tissue. Earlier, I had shown you saliva. So let's say that we have taken a tissue here, or maybe saliva also. we had extracted some fluids, some molecules from there, we would get the data in the form of spots. These spots can be identified and characterized. The information can then be collated by using bioinformatics tools. Bioinformatics tools will suggest us the pathways in which the proteins or the metabolites are following, and we can build a pathway of whether the pathway is getting activated or down-regulated, and we can correlate it with the disease condition. हर time disease के साथ ही वो नहीं करना है हमें correlate. If it is normal, तो normal भी हम बता सकते हैं कि okay, normal में ऐसा pattern होना चाहिए, right? Yeah. Yeah, so you have to immobilize it on the chip. Chip would be, attached to a sensor. Yeah. So extraction has to be done. So you may get multiple types of, you can get data in multiple forms. So if you're extracting data on a genomics basis, so you will get genomic sequence, right? So for example, you're extracting information about proteins. So you would get data in the form of letters, which code for amino acids. So a biologist would know that this particular, sequence of letters is telling us the sequence of a protein, right? Yeah, as a computer applicant, the genomic data, metabolomic data, by using bioinformatics tools. So gene sequences are available, protein sequences are available. There are databases available. So for example, you have to collate data for genomes. So you can go to NCBI, National Center for Biotechnology. NCBI, I have forgotten what B and I stands for. So you have the complete data set of the genes, right? So if you want to find out the human genome atlas, you can go to Human Genome Atlas. It's a database. So Human Genome Atlas में आप जा सकते हैं, वहां पर अपने ये जितने भी sequences आपके आए हैं उसके साथ collate करिए. So you can do that. So there are sites, data sets available on the basis of that. So it's kind of, to give you a perspective, you would get something as a result of all this. You would get, say a sequence of 10 bases, 10 letters, let us consider. These 10 letters you have to run across a reference genome. कुछ reference आप लेंगे ना, तो वो reference genome atlas आपके पास available है already. आपके पास क्या, everybody के पास available है. So as a computer scientist, you can use the test sequence and you can run it across a reference sequence, which is available on NCBI. And then you can figure out, there are a lot of tools, then you can figure out what patterns you're getting. Okay, so a lot of computational tools are. So abhi to, I mean, in our domain, biocomputing is something which is coming up in a big way. So the biocomputing person, उसके क्या expertise होगी, उसने biology भी पढ़ी होगी थोड़ी सी, and computer science भी उसने पढ़ा होगा. Okay, so दोनों domains का उसको थोड़ा knowledge होगा, working knowledge होगा, तो he or she can address these issues. But that doesn't mean that you cannot address. You can also address because you have good knowledge of computer sciences. You can collaborate with the biologists to make sense of the data, but the data is available to you too, right? In the form of genome atlas, in the form of sequencing data, in the form of proteomic data. ना हमारा human genome तो sequenced है, तो उसका data available है. All right. Understand mutations, protein biomarkers which have been, so बायोमार्कर्स की बात कर रहे थे ना, हमें आप कह रहे थे कि क्या क्या हमें अवेलेबल होगा, तो हमारे पास वील हैव डीएनए बेस्ड प्रिडिक्टर्स। सो डीएनए के बेसिस का प्रिडिक्टर्स हमारे पास अवेलेबल होगा जैसे आपका 0101 बाइनरी सिस्टम आप यूज करते हैं, ऐसे ही जीनोम में 4 बेसिस हैं, उसी का डिफरेंट अरेंजमेंट, ABCD की तरह ATGC, they're going to lock us. So protein biomarkers from blood and tissue analysis. So these are some examples of biomarkers that you can use for detection and identification and comparison. कौन से? Genetic markers, proteomic markers, metabolomic markers and imaging biomarkers. Imaging में क्या देखना है? पैटर्न्स देखने कि कोई पिक्सल कहीं सरफेस पे क्या मिल रहा है, कोई स्पॉट खाली तो नहीं हो रहा है, या कोई स्पॉट एकदम मासी तो नहीं लग रहा है, राइट? कलर चेंजेस इन एक्स-रेज, precision oncology, I have talked about it. Targeted therapy, I talked about these applications. I would not go into details of these. I think I have made it clear, right? I hope so. My aim is not to make everything clear. My aim is to make it interesting for you so that you start to think in these directions, right? So some things I have made clear, that we have to focus on patterns, we have to focus on molecular signatures, we have to try to understand how these molecular signatures are important to us. Rest of it, I leave it to you to take it up as a challenge and take it up as a problem for your research. All right. So this is one important aspect which I had missed. So pharmacogenomics, we can integrate pharmacy and genomics by AI. We can utilize genomic information for giving precise customized medicine. Okay, तो हमारा जो genomic profile होगा उसके basis पे हम medicine suggest करेंगे. So we have a branch of science now. Integration of computer sciences, genomic data, and pharmacy. Then integrated patient ecosystem for digital health. So this watch can be the ID which you were talking about, and we can integrate the entire hospital system. I'll move on to the clearances. I'll move on to the regulatory aspects. So as I told you, regulatory aspects are mostly associated with data security here, right? Data security is a major issue that has to be addressed in context of medical applications of AI. So we have to protect sensitive patient information, and for this we have to adhere to the guidelines of HIPAA and comply to their guidelines. All right. These are the future horizons. So we should go into the fields of next generation technologies. So mostly focus would be on predictive medicine and personalized medicine. Prediction. We can predict a pandemic. Yeah, by using AI. We can predict the pandemic by using AI. अभी कोरोना का तो हमें पता नहीं लगा था, राइट? बट अब एआई की इंफॉर्मेशन को कोलेट करके by looking at the migration patterns of vectors. Vector. Pandemics are mostly vector borne. Vector मानी कि इनको एक जैसे मलेरिया है तो उसको मच्छर is the vector, right? Similarly, corona, it had pigs were the vectors or bats were the vectors. So there is a project going on in which the vector migration is being monitored by remote sensing, right? Oh, okay. So vector migration can be used as a pattern for predicting pandemics. All right. So with this, I'll leave you at this point. The future horizons, the emerging trends for applications of AI in medical sciences, healthcare, and diagnostic technology are in the areas of gene editing, single cell sequencing for precision, transcriptomics and imaging, quantum computing for molecular modeling. So biocomputing, quantum computing that I was talking about till now. And what would we achieve? We would achieve global health equity and access. By integrating all these tools, what would we achieve? We would achieve health equity and access. The healthcare would be accessible to everybody, right? So affordable diagnostic solutions for low income regions, mobile health technologies for care professionals, collaborative international research networks for everybody. This, I think I'll stop here. And I hope that you would have taken some taken some message home, and you would have gained in the past 1 hour. So if some ideas have triggered in your mind, if you want to follow them, please follow them, and follow them by collaborating with people. Okay, thank you. So if you have any questions, I'm ready to take the questions. I think you have asked me some questions during the course of the talk, but then I'm available in the university most of the time. So whenever, if the question comes up in your mind later on also, you can write to me. All right. Thank you very much, Faizan. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. So should I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Thank you for your insightful and enriching session. We truly appreciate your time, expertise, and meaningful contribution to this faculty development program. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.